I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 10 years now. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall I thought we were solid. She's a fiery, stubborn woman, often bitchy, yeah, but I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. Things started feeling off about 3 months ago. Lisa became more distant, more irritable. She'd snap at me over the smallest things, and I noticed she was spending more time glued to her phone. She'd go out with friends, but I always got a weird vibe like she was hiding something. I tried talking to her about it, but she brushed me off, calling me paranoid or insecure. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Still, I kept quiet, thinking maybe I was overthinking it. Then last week, I got a call from our son's high school. Turns out he got into some disciplinary trouble, and I had to go in for a meeting with his principal, Mr. Carter. It was a routine thing, nothing out of the ordinary. But while I was there, I noticed something strange. The school security cameras had a recording, and I happened to glance at the footage while waiting in the hall, not sure why I looked, honestly just bored. That's when I saw her, or her face at least. Lisa was sneaking into the principal's office during a meeting I wasn't even aware she was attending. I froze. It wasn't just a quick visit or a casual chat. No, she was in there for a good 15 minutes, and I saw her sitting close to Mr. Carter, leaning in, touching his arm, like they were having some sort of private, intimate conversation. My stomach clenched so hard I thought I'd throw up. I kept watching, and that's when I saw her get up, leave the office, and then her walk out of the school building. No way was that innocent. I didn't know what to think at first. I wanted to believe it was some mistake, a coincidence, maybe she was just there for some school-related thing that I didn't know about. But the footage was clear, and I knew it was. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion swirl inside me. I mean, how could she do this? During disciplinary meetings of all times, what the hell was she even doing in there? And why the hell with the principal? The man's name was Carter. Yeah, the same Carter who was supposed to be a professional, a decent man. But now I was wondering if he'd been playing her along or if she was just that good at lying. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to process it, figure out my next move. I just sat there in the car after I left the school, replaying that footage over and over. My hands were trembling. I felt a cold fury bubbling inside me. All those times she called me paranoid, totally dismissing my feelings. She'd always been quick to lie her way out of things, too. I was at the gym, she'd say, or I was with a girlfriend, even when I knew she was full of crap. But this was different. It was real, and it cut deep. I decided to gather more evidence. I found her phone that night, snooped through her messages when she was asleep. I didn't find anything explicit there, yet, but that's when I realized she'd been acting weird for a while. She deleted texts, changed her passwords, and was just overly cautious about her phone. It all clicked. She'd been hiding something from me, and now, with that footage, I was certain. She'd been cheating on me with the damn school principal during disciplinary meetings of all times. How sick is that? That's when I started plotting in my head what I'd do next. Part of me wanted to explode right then and there, to confront her, call her out in front of the kids, make her feel guilty. But I knew better. I needed a plan, something cold, calculated, and if I was honest, something that would hurt her as much as she'd hurt me. I had to catch her in her lies, expose her for the lying, cheating bitch she was. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after this. I'm still reeling from it all, honestly. I've never felt such an intense mix of heartbreak and rage before. I keep asking myself how she could do this, how she could betray me like that, during a meeting designed to help our son. It's like her entire personality was a lie, and I was just too blind to see it. I never thought Lisa was capable of this kind of betrayal, but there it was, staring me in the face. I don't know what's worse, the fact that she cheated, or that she lied so effortlessly about everything, even to my face. After I watched that footage, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning, replaying every moment, every detail. I kept asking myself how long she'd been doing this, how many times she'd been in that office with Carter, what kind of conversations they had behind closed doors. It was like a sick nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed a plan, some kind of leverage before I said a damn word. I didn't want her to spin her usual lies or deny everything outright. I wanted her cornered, exposed. The next day I became a detective. I started digging into her phone more, going through old messages, looking for clues. I also checked her bank accounts, her emails, anything that might give me more answers. It was disgusting how much I found. Her messages with Carter, talking about meeting up, planning little getaways, sharing flirtatious jokes. All of it was right there, plain as day. She'd been sneaking around for weeks, maybe longer. It made the betrayal feel even deeper, like I'd been played for a fool for months. And while I was doing all this, Lisa was acting like everything was normal. She'd throw her usual bitchy remarks, call me insecure, tell me I was overreacting. She'd toss her head, act like she was the victim, like I was the one with the problem. That made me angrier. Her lies, her manipulations. It was like watching a master at work. She was good at pretending she was innocent, even as I was gathering evidence that proved she was anything but. The more she lied, the more I saw her for what she truly was, a selfish, deceitful woman who didn't give a damn about her family, only about her own pleasure. I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I needed to confront her face to face. So I called her at work, told her I needed to talk about something important. When she finally came home that evening, she looked annoyed, suspicious even. She knew I was up to something, I think. I didn't waste time beating around the bush. As soon as she stepped in, I just laid it out, showed her the footage, the evidence I'd uncovered, the text messages. Her face twisted into a mixture of anger, shock, and defiance. "Oh, come on, Mike," she snapped, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. You're paranoid. You're overreacting. Carter and I are just friends, nothing more. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." She spat the words out like they meant nothing to her, like she was trying to dismiss it all with a wave of her hand, but I wasn't buying it. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way she was trying to spin her lies. I knew she was lying, she always lied, but this time she couldn't talk her way out of it, not with that footage staring her down. Friends don't sneak into each other's offices and hide for 15 minutes during a disciplinary meeting, I said, voice low but firm. You think I'm stupid, that I won't see your bullshit. I saw you with my own eyes. Why, Lisa, why did you do this? I wanted her to explain herself, but she just smirked like she thought she was above all of it. Honestly, Mike, she said, voice dripping with disdain, you're just insecure, you don't trust me. I've told you 100 times I was there for the stupid meeting, okay? Maybe Carter and I are close, but that doesn't mean we're sleeping together. You're just jealous. Maybe you're the one who's insecure, not me. Her words stung, but I could tell she was lying through her teeth. She was deflecting, trying to turn it around on me like I was the problem. That's typical Lisa, blame everyone else for her own mess, but I wasn't buying her crap anymore. I felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. How could she so casually lie like that? How could she deny something so obvious? She'd been caught red-handed and she still refused to admit it. I was furious, but I also felt a deep, aching hurt. This wasn't just about the affair, it was about trust, respect, everything I thought we had gone. I told her I needed some time to think, that I wasn't going to make any rash decisions. But inside, I was already deciding what I had to do. I couldn't stay with someone who so willingly betrayed me, who lied and cheated and dismissed my feelings like they didn't matter. I looked at her, that bitchy smirk still on her face, and I realized I was done. Done pretending, done lying to myself that things could somehow go back to normal. That night, I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece everything together. I kept asking myself if I was overreacting, if maybe I'd misunderstood, but the footage and the messages told me otherwise. Lisa had been cheating on me with Carter, her boss, during what was supposed to be disciplinary meetings for our son. It felt like my entire world had flipped upside down. I never thought I'd be that guy who catches his wife cheating and feels this much pain. But here I was, broken and furious, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. Over the next couple of days, I couldn't focus on anything else. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her differently, more like a stranger than the woman I married. I kept replaying everything I'd seen, heard, uncovered. The lies she told, the fake tears she sometimes threw on trying to guilt me into feeling sorry for her. The worst part was knowing she'd been manipulating me for months, maybe longer. I felt like a damn fool, blind to her betrayal, blind to how she'd been sneaking around behind my back. I knew I needed to confront her again, but this time with a plan. I couldn't just blow up and yell, at least not yet. I needed her to slip up, to admit something on her own, because I knew with her personality she wouldn't come clean easily. I started laying traps. I left my phone around, hoping she'd get curious and do something stupid. I put my laptop in places I knew she'd see it. I even started pretending I knew more than I did just to see her reaction. Anything to catch her off guard. One afternoon, I walked into the living room and she was sitting there typing on her phone. I could see her glance at me quickly, then hide her screen. My heart pounded. There was that guilty look again, the one she always tried to hide. I sat down next to her casually and asked her how her day was. She snapped at me, trying to brush me off, but I kept probing, acting like I was clueless. Then I saw it, another message from Carter sent just that morning. It was a flirtatious joke, nothing explicit but definitely suggestive enough to confirm my suspicions. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her, waiting for her to slip up. She caught my stare, tried to cover her phone, but I was quicker. I grabbed her arm, pulled the phone closer, and looked at the screen. Her face went pale. For a second she just stared at me like she was trying to come up with an excuse, but I was done playing nice. I was tired of her lies. "Lisa," I said, voice cold but controlled, "you've been lying to me for months about everything, and I know what you're doing with Carter, don't even bother denying it." I saw her try to fake a surprised look like she had no idea what I was talking about, but it was weak. Her eyes darted around, trying to escape, but I wasn't letting her. She finally snapped, "Oh, come on, Mike, you're overreacting, it's not what you think. Carter and I are just friends, nothing more. You're just being paranoid like always." She threw her head back, her tone dripping with disdain. "You're so insecure, you think I'd cheat with the principal. Please, I don't even care what you think anymore." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. She was trying to gaslight me, make me feel crazy. But I knew the truth. She was cheating, and she was lying her ass off because she was scared I'd blow everything up. I looked her straight in the eyes. "No more lies, Lisa. I've seen enough. I have the footage, the messages, everything. You've been screwing around with Carter during school meetings. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I do know I can't stay with someone who's this manipulative and dishonest." My voice was steady, but inside I was boiling. Rage and heartbreak mixed into one overwhelming feeling. Her face twisted into anger. "Fine," she spat. "If you want to play dirty, go ahead. But I'm not leaving. I don't care what you've seen. I don't care what you think you know. Carter and I have a thing, yeah, but it's not your business. You're just jealous because I don't want to sit around pretending everything's perfect like you want." Her words dripped with venom, and I could see she was trying to provoke me, to get me to explode. But I held myself back. I knew this was her attempt to regain control, to turn my accusations into a reason to stay. That night, I sat alone in the dark, feeling numb. All I could think about was how everything I believed in had been shattered. My wife, someone I trusted, someone I thought loved me, was out there screwing her boss and lying to my face. I'd always been the one who tried to fix things, to make her happy, to be there for her. And this was my reward. Betrayal, lies, manipulation. She made a fool of me, and now I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, demand she tell the truth outright, to see if she'd admit to everything. But another part, smarter, colder, knew that wouldn't change anything right now. I needed time to think, to plan my next move. I had to figure out if I could forgive her, if I even wanted to. Honestly, I wasn't sure I had that in me anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't stay blind anymore. I'd seen too much, and I was done being the fool. What hurt the most was realizing that the woman I'd loved, the woman I thought I knew, she was nothing more than a liar and a cheat. And I was left picking up the pieces of my shattered life. The days that followed were like living in a fog. I went through the motions, getting up, going to work, pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was anything but normal. My mind kept circling back to that footage, the messages, all the clues I'd uncovered. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her differently. Less like my wife and more like a stranger who'd betrayed me so deeply I didn't recognize her anymore. I felt a strange mixture of anger, sadness, and a kind of numb acceptance creeping in, like I'd finally hit rock bottom and there was no way back to the guy I used to be. I started to think about what I was going to do next. Honestly, the thought of staying with her, under the same roof, made me sick, but I also knew I needed more evidence, something concrete I could hold over her head if I decided to confront her again or even take legal action. That led me to step up my game. I rigged my home to record her whenever she was in the house alone, just in case she slipped up again or tried to deny everything. I also bought a cheap GPS tracker and hidden it in her purse. Call me paranoid, but I wanted to be sure I wasn't missing anything. One evening, Lisa came home from work more bitchy than usual, if that was even possible. She snapped at the kids, threw her bag down like a queen, and started barking orders about dinner. I watched her from a distance, trying to keep my cool, but inside I was boiling. I was waiting for her to slip up again, to give me that one piece of evidence I needed to finally call her out in front of everyone. And wouldn't you know it, she did. While she was in the kitchen, I discreetly turned on my hidden camera and watched her on my phone. She pulled out her phone, opened a message from Carter and started typing. I couldn't hear her, but I saw her lips move and I read the message on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've missed you today." My stomach clenched. That was the smoking gun I'd been waiting for. She was planning to meet Carter again, probably for sex. I felt the rage bubble up inside me. My God, she was so brazen about it, like she didn't even care if I knew. I waited until she went to the bathroom, then I went into our bedroom, grabbed my phone and recorded her speaking into it. I told her I'd been watching her, that I knew everything and I was done letting her lie her way out. Her reaction was priceless. Her face went from furious to stunned. She stammered, denied everything, called me crazy. But I wasn't giving her that luxury anymore. I played back the recordings, showing her that I had her on tape confessing her plans to meet Carter. Her eyes widened and she cursed, called me a possessive asshole, and said I was blowing things out of proportion. But I knew better. I knew the truth, and I had the evidence to prove it. I wasn't about to sit back and be her patsy anymore, letting her lie her way through everything. I decided I'd had enough. I told her she needed to leave, that I wasn't going to tolerate her manipulations any longer. She argued, called me controlling and jealous, but I shut her down cold. I told her she was a cheating bitch, and if she wanted to stay here, she'd have to come clean and face what she'd done. Of course, she refused, threw her usual tantrums, crying and yelling, but I just stared her down. I wasn't going to be played anymore. That night was the turning point. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had the evidence, the proof of her lies. I was finally ready to make a decision, whether to divorce her, take legal action, or just walk away and start over. I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with dread. For the first time, I saw a path out of this nightmare, but at what cost? That's what haunted me. The woman I loved, the life we built, crumbling before my eyes, all because of her greed and selfishness. I kept asking myself if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again after this, and honestly, I didn't have an answer yet. All I knew was I was done being the fool, and she was going to have to face the consequences of her betrayal. The decision to kick her out wasn't easy, but once I had all the evidence in hand, it felt inevitable. I remember packing the living room that night, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. Lisa sat on the couch, tears streaming down her face, trying to spin her usual lies, saying I'd misunderstood, that it was just a stupid joke, that Carter was just helping her with school stuff. She looked so bitchy, so full of herself, even when she was crying. I couldn't stand to see her like that, not anymore. I told her she needed to leave immediately, that this wasn't a matter of a misunderstanding or some innocent flirtation. No, I knew she'd been cheating on me with Carter for weeks, maybe months, and I wasn't going to let her stay and continue lying. She protested, throwing her hands in the air, calling me paranoid, controlling, insecure. She said she loved me, that she'd never cheat, but her words rang hollow. Her tears, her lies, they didn't move me anymore. I was done. When she started packing her things, she kept yelling that I was overreacting, that I was being unreasonable, that I was crazy for believing her. I told her that I wasn't crazy. I was just finally seeing her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who didn't care about her family, only about her own pleasure. I handed her a duffel bag, told her she could take whatever she wanted, but she had to go. And she did without another word. The house suddenly felt so empty. The silence was deafening. It was surreal, like I'd lost my wife, my partner, the woman I thought I knew. I sat down on the couch, feeling a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I was finally free from the lies, the betrayal, the deception, but at the same time I felt like a part of me had died. I kept thinking about the innocent life we'd built, the promises we made, and how she'd shattered it all for some fleeting affair with Carter. The following days were brutal. I had to tell the kids, and watching their faces crumble when I explained their mother was leaving was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I kept my cool outside, but inside I was a mess. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her cheating, her manipulations. All I wanted was to find some way to fix this, but I knew I couldn't. Not anymore. I felt like I'd been betrayed by the one person I trusted most in this world, and now I had to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I also started thinking about how to handle the legal side. I wasn't sure if I wanted a divorce or if I could even trust her to be honest in court. I hired a lawyer just to get advice, and she confirmed what I already knew, that I had a strong case for infidelity. Honestly, I wasn't interested in revenge in the traditional sense. I just wanted her to face the consequences of what she'd done and to make sure I protected myself and the kids. Still, part of me secretly hoped she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, but I knew better. She'd burned that bridge long ago. What struck me most in all of this was how this whole mess revealed who she really was: bitchy, manipulative, selfish, and utterly unfaithful. I used to think we had something real, a life built on trust and respect. Turns out it was just a house of cards ready to fall at the slightest breeze. I learned that you can't always fix things, no matter how much you want to. Sometimes walking away is the only option left. I still don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her destroy me anymore. I'm done being the fool, and I'm finally starting to see a way forward. It's been a few weeks since she left, and honestly, I feel like I'm only just starting to breathe again. The house is quiet now, sometimes too quiet, and I catch myself expecting her to walk through the door, that bitchy smirk on her face, acting like everything's fine. But I know better. I know she's gone, and I've finally accepted that she's not coming back. The hardest part wasn't just dealing with the betrayal, it was facing the aftermath. My kids, my own feelings of betrayal, and the realization that she'd lied to me for so long. I've had to rebuild my trust in myself, figure out how to move on, and learn to let go of the anger that threatened to consume me. I won't lie. There are days I wake up feeling like crap, days I still think about her and wonder how I missed all the signs. But each day I remind myself I deserve better. I deserve honesty, loyalty, respect, qualities she clearly never had. I cut ties with Carter, blocked his number, and made sure the school knew what kind of person she was. So if she ever tries to manipulate her way back into some sort of apology, she'll find herself out of options. I've also started focusing on myself, going back to the gym, catching up with friends I'd pushed aside. It's not just about healing my marriage. It's about rediscovering who I am outside of her lies and betrayal. The one thing I've realized from all this is that sometimes you gotta get broken before you can rebuild. And honestly, I don't regret what I've done or how I handled it. I got the truth, and I finally stood up for myself. I learned that the people who truly care about you won't betray you the way she did, and that sometimes the right choice is walking away from a toxic person, even if it hurts like hell. I'm not saying I've completely moved on or that I won't feel the sting of betrayal for a long time, but I am saying I'm better than I was before. The pain has softened, and I've gained clarity. I see now that I was a fool for trusting someone who didn't deserve that trust, but I also see that I've gained strength I didn't know I had. So to anyone out there feeling betrayed, hurt, or lost, I promise it gets better. You'll survive. You'll find your footing again. And someday you'll look back at this hellish chapter and realize it was what made you stronger, because you have to go through the darkness to appreciate the light. And I know now that no matter how much she lied or betrayed, I'll be okay. Better than okay, I'll be stronger, wiser, and more cautious with my heart. Because I finally learned to value myself enough to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve me.